So here's 4 tips to gain muscle if you're over 30. So most of our members are coming to us in their 30s and they've been told that it's going to be more difficult for them to gain lean muscle mass because they're in their 30s and everything starts to slow down. So they think that they've got a slower metabolism. They think they've got less capability of gaining muscle because they've got things like lower testosterone, and they think that it's going to be more challenging basically because they've got less time. So here's 4 strategies that we would implement with those members to actually make sure that they come to a successful outcome there. So the first thing that I would want you to focus on, it's called something called life stage. So just appreciate and acknowledge your life stage. When you're 20 years old, you've probably got more time, you've probably got more energy, you've probably got less responsibilities, you've got less likelihood of having things like children, growth within your career, and obviously the chronic stress that would come with that. So your life stage at 20 would probably allow you to put more time and energy and commitment towards going to a gym and training or resistance training pretty much 4 or 5 times a week without any real impact. You're probably sleeping better at that point too, because think about it from this perspective, if you're stressed less, you're probably going to get a better quality of sleep. And the things that you're doing when you're in your 20s, it's probably more like partying, going out, drinking, socializing, that sort of stuff. So they're almost your choices that would take you away from being able to gain muscle in your 20s. Well, actually in your 30s, you've got maybe the kids waking you up, you've got the boss with the incredibly demanding objectives that you've got to work towards, you've got your own internal pressures that you're putting on yourself to push in your career, to push your wealth, all that sort of stuff. So just consider your life stage is a really important thing to understand. You've got to be able to appreciate that you might not have the same energy and time resource, but that's why it's so much more important to know how to use that time and energy more effectively. So you don't go to a gym without a program, you don't go to a gym without actually analyzing the success of a workout, and you don't go to the gym and do the same thing repetitively for a year and hope to see some form of improvement. It's going to take time, but it's also going to take a strategy. And if you can only train 2 to 3 times a week, you need to know how to maximize your time there. So make sure that you've got a blueprint in place. The second thing that you need to be aware of is the time frames that you've got to put towards training might mean that you need to adapt to the style of workouts that you're doing. So when you're in your 20s, you can go through that old bro split. Go and train chest on one day, shoulders on one day, biceps, and you probably missed most of your leg sessions because you had football and other sports. But let's be honest, you probably did do a bro split when you were younger, and that probably would have worked to a degree. But if you've only got 2 to 3 days where you can train now, that's probably not going to be the best use of your time. You want to be able to hit certain muscle groups more frequently over the course of those 2 to 3 sessions, instead of just blasting out a workout where you're just focusing on one muscle group. Now, why is that important? For your body to grow lean muscle mass, you need to be able to recover. And if you're just hammering one muscle just once a week, you're probably not going to be able to recover optimally within the session, but then after the session, you're going to feel completely and utterly wiped out. So what we'd recommend you do is train that muscle group more frequently, maybe put 1 to 2 sets towards it, but split that over 3 sessions. And then that way you get to train your whole body and nothing really gets missed out. And then that's going to be really important for you when you're starting to see the physique development and seeing those lean muscle mass gains. You've not just got this top heavy body, you've actually got a balanced physique. Third thing that I'd want you to think about is, say for example, you want to train for 60 minutes, but unfortunately something's come up. So you've only really got 20-minute or 30-minute training window. What you really need to have within your workouts are staple movements that you can have a level of progressive overload on. So you might say that actually my indicator lift might be something like a dumbbell press. Okay, so that dumbbell press is a staple movement. So if you've only got 20 to 30 minutes to train, you know that's where you can spend a lot of time and your energy. Focus on that movement. Don't try and do the whole session and condense it into a 60-minute session and try and condense that into 20 to 30 minutes, because actually you're going to lose the quality of that session, the quality of those sets. So focus on some indicator lifts. And if you've got shortened time windows to train, focus on maybe just 1 or 2 movements that you can really move the needle on, instead of trying to do everything and condense it and lose the quality of those sessions. Now, the fourth thing that nobody concentrates enough on, because most people are thinking, how much harder can I push? how much less can I eat, or how much more can I eat in terms of like things like protein, all that sort of stuff. What you really need to do when you're in your 30s and above is focus on recovery. Like, you've got less time now, just in your day anyway. You've got less time because you've got more responsibilities, more areas that you need to focus your mind, your energy and your time on. So if you've got less time, what can you do to optimize recovery? Well, what can you put in place to make sure you're sleeping better? What can you put in place that actually gives you the tools to manage stress more effectively? What can you put in place that will help you manage your nutrition more effectively? Simple things here, like actually before I go to bed, that last 20 to 30 minutes, I won't watch TV because I know that stimulates my mind, and actually what I need to do is unwind at that period of time. Okay, so how could you manage your stress more effectively? You could use things like mindfulness, deep breathing techniques. You could start to write things down instead of bottling everything up. And then the third thing when it comes to nutrition is start to plan ahead. Like, actually start to plan ahead what you're gonna have the next day. Prep some food, go and buy that food, or actually get somebody else to make the food so you can just buy it and eat and warm it up and eat it. So you're cutting out that whole step. You've actually got the ability to get the nutrients in that you need to recover. But make sure that if you're trying to gain lean muscle mass in your 30s, you're simplifying the process. You're making sure that you're adaptable with the whole process as well. And you're not just putting too much pressure on one thing. You've got to have a broad view. And let's face it, you should be outsourcing this. If you don't know how to manage this yourself, don't sit there and waste hours and hours and hours on YouTube looking at videos and looking at ways to manage this and gain that lean muscle mass. Go and outsource it. Find the right people that can develop this system for you, manage it for you, and support you through it.